Welcome to episode 13 of the Hodgepodge podcast. I'm your host, Doug.
And I'm Dirty A. As the name suggests, we're going to discuss a hodgepodge of topics anywhere from movies, music, TV, and other pop culture events.
And on this episode, we'll be discussing Spike Lee's new movie, Oldboy, as well as the original 2003 Korean version. Then we'll be taking a trip in the Tardis to talk about Doctor Who, Day of the Doctor. You can reach us at thehodgepodgepodcast@gmail.com, on our website, thehodgepodgepodcast.com, or over at my review blog, dougreviews.blogspot.com. And we would like to extend to our viewers and say, hope you had a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday, because we're just coming off of Thanksgiving. We saw, separately, we went to go see the new Spike Lee version of Oldboy. And just last week, or a week or so ago, we watched the original. It was a rewatch for you.
You watched it for the first time.
Yeah, I watched it for the first time, and there was a rewatch for you. So for those of you who have seen the original, we want to make clear that the most important question you have, the answer is yes. You do get to see Elizabeth Olsen's boobies in this movie.
You do.
And they are fantastic.
They're great.
We are laughing. So let's get right into it.
I guess we'll also preface this with this is a review and a discussion, so there are going to be a lot of spoilers in here.
Yeah.
We didn't feel there was a way to adequately discuss these two movies without spoilers. So, off the bat, if you haven't seen the original or the remake and you'd prefer to wait to listen to this later, there are spoilers in here. So
yeah, there's going to be we'll try and figure out if we can post a graphic on the YouTube like we did with the Prisoners episode.
Right.
But it really you really can't talk about the two movies without talking about the spoilers, especially the huge twist that is actually in both films.
Yep.
So I know people were wondering about that. But basically, let's get right into it. Oldboy was originally a Japanese manga.
Just a comic of sorts, graphic novel type of.
Yeah, I forget what year it came out.
Not a novel, so definitely not a novel.
No, but it was
graphic short story.
Well, comic book. I mean, it's a Japanese comic book. Then in 2003, it was made into a Korean film by
Chan-wook Park.
Yeah, Chan-wook Park made it into a movie that was in 2003. I think it came out in the States in 2004 with all the subtitles and everything. He changed a bit about the manga.
He did definitely changed a lot of the underlying factors of why.
Yeah, and basically now Spike Lee has done an American remake. Now it's 10 years later, basically, and he's done a remake that came into theaters, and it probably won't be there long because for some reason the studio looks like they're trying to bury this movie. It went into only what I say was 800 theaters or something like that.
I thought you said 500.
Yeah, maybe it was even less. Oh, yeah, that's right, because Dallas Buyers Club was more, and that's 6 something.
Yeah, it was only 500 plus theaters.
And no advertising.
I can't figure it out. I never thought this movie would get a lot of traction.
Right.
But I thought, it seemed when it was getting made, the studio was going to give it some attention.
Yeah.
But it's just something's happened. It's gone off the rails.
Yeah.
It's just not. No advertisement leading up to the release of this movie. It's only in, it's in less movies than some indie films.
Yeah.
Are put in.
Yeah, like Dallas Buyers Club, quote unquote, went wide to 600 something theaters, and that's considered wide for them. This is only in less than that. So, and it's really weird because it seemed like it was a really big deal when it was announced that Spike Lee was going to do this, and it had been gestating for a while. Then there's been a recent controversy with the artist who worked on the posters. The original, if you were in the movie theater, walk around, you may have seen a poster with Josh Brolin coming out of a trunk in a field, and that poster, the artist who did that poster wrote an open letter to Spike Lee recently because he said he never got paid, and they never used it with his permission. And Spike Lee kind of shot him down, which was kind of shitty, but.
In Spike Lee's defense, he's probably not the one that handles.
That
stuff anyway.
Yeah, the guy was going to. He wrote an open letter to him as a last resort before he
to try to say, hey, this is your film. Help me get what I'm
compensation. Before he goes to legal action, which
Spike Lee basically said, look, I don't know you. I don't this is a cheap trick. You come to me, so good luck.
So I doubt that has anything to do with what they did, because obviously the marketing
it may be a symptom of some larger issue we don't know about with this film.
Yeah, because the studio is clearly trying to bury it.
But in any case, to talk about the movies themselves, on the forefront, the original 2003 movie I saw several years ago, and it's one of my favorite foreign films.
Right.
It struck a chord with me. It's one of my favorites, right at the top of the list. And if in terms of Korean ancestral movies, it's number one. It's number one in my book.
Spoiler number one. Way to go! Spoiler number one. Basically, the story is for both movies is that a man is kidnapped after a bender. After basically he goes on a bender and then he gets kidnapped.
He's a drunk.
He's a drunk,
constant,
right?
Right. On constant benders, it's what they lead you to believe.
Right, but after they make it a little clearer, I would say, in the new one, because they focus more on his pre-captivity life a little bit more in this one. But he is kidnapped by unknown people and put in basically a motel room that he is trapped in. It's a prison.
Right. It's built to look like a motel room.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
The only thing he has for entertainment is an old TV that plays cheesy
aerobics
videos, kung fu movies, and then he gets some news.
Yeah.
One of the things that pops up on the news is that his ex-wife, or was it his wife in the original? He was still married to her, wasn't he?
In the original, yeah, but just not to mix movies.
Right.
What you're talking about is the new Spike Lee movie. In the original version, he doesn't get that news about that's not on the TV in the way he finds out. Doesn't he find out after the fact?
No. I think he found out when he was in there.
Did he?
Yeah, he found out when he was in there. I think they showed on the TV. It wasn't the same delivery device, but it was because we'll get into that. But anyway, so he finds out that his wife was killed in the new one. It's his ex-wife, and he is to blame. Basically, he's suspect number one in the thing, and now people are like, oh, well, he vanished, so he must have done it and all this stuff, and so he's basically framed for the murder.
Yeah, so he's locked up. He doesn't know why he's locked up.
He doesn't know
who locked him up, and he has no idea how long he's going to be locked up. So all those things in the mix, it's someone's probably going to go pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then it turns out in the original movie, he's locked up for 15 years.
In the new one,
it's
20.
One is 20 years, arbitrary. I'm not sure what.
And in the manga, it was 10.
So
Oldboy 5, he's going to die in prison. So.
But, so, eventually, after being locked up for X number of years in whichever story you're following,
right,
he is released.
Right.
And set free back into the world as a free man, just with very little information. He's given a cell phone, which throughout the movie, periodically, someone will call him and give him information. And it's basically, they set up the captor, the person that put him in the prison, I should say,
right,
has basically set up a sort of game for him.
Right.
To figure out
who the guy is.
Who guy is who put him there, and why he put him there.
Right.
And he has a time limit. It's like 48 hours.
It's 5 days in the original.
In the original is 5 days. In this one, it seems more like it's
little less.
But he has a set time limit to figure out who the guy is and why he put him there. And I guess we kind of need to backtrack there because he has a daughter that survived the murder of his wife,
right,
while he was imprisoned.
Right.
And if he doesn't solve the riddle, then his daughter will be killed.
Right.
If he does solve the riddle, then his captor will kill himself in front of him, and let him see his daughter again.
Right.
That's the general idea
for both.
The plot device for both movies. In most ways, the movies kind of follow the same general path. They just use a different technique to get there.
Yeah, the Spike Lee movie is not. It's not an exact replica of the original, but it has a lot of similarities to it. Josh Brolin is the lead actor in this one, in the new one. Obviously not in the Korean one.
Right.
And
in the Korean one, some Korean guy is the lead actor.
Nice.
I don't know his name.
Real nice.
Yeah. Dae-sun is his character's name.
Min Suk Choi
is
the actor
obviously,
who plays Dae Soo-oh.
Is obviously the famous Min Suk Choi.
and in the original. What I liked about... See, for me... Because you clearly liked the original way better.
Yeah.
For me, these two movies, I almost felt like if they combined the two, I would have been like, this is a fantastic and amazing movie. But because there's little things about each of them that annoyed me, that didn't work for me. So I'm trying to figure out how to go until we really delve into the spoilers. But
just go with it, man.
Basically, what happens is that you have these correlating characters. There's a guy who's friends with Dae Soo-oh in the original, and he meets up with him. He runs like an internet cafe or something like that.
Yeah, in the original, he runs an internet cafe.
In the new one, he runs a bar. His name's Chucky. He's played by Michael Imperioli of Sopranos fame. And like as we said, Elizabeth Olsen is in it. She plays this nurse who befriends him somehow.
Right.
They're never really clear why she wants to help him.
Yeah, it's just... I mean... She is kind of like a, it looks, I guess the best way to say it is they have a mobile clinic for homeless people and needy. When Brolin's character shows up there after being released, he's manipulated or led there after his release.
To run into her.
To run into her. But the fact that she takes such a interest in him and wants to help him get better, doesn't really feel...
Yes. It's forced.
It's not natural.
It's definitely forced.
Yeah.
And then the doctor who actually runs, and this is going to be interesting for Wire fans, the doctor who runs the clinic is played by Ziggy from season 2 of The Wire, James Ransom.
Okay.
I hated his character on The Wire, but you're supposed to, so... So then, the main character, whether it's Brolin's character, who his name is Joe Dissett in the new one, and then it's Dae Soo-oh in the original. He tries to piece all this stuff together. I felt that the original did a lot better with the journey to... The Spike Lee movie felt rushed to me. Things seemed to happen a little too quickly, whereas the original... It really takes you on that journey with him as he's trying to figure this stuff out.
Well, and I will liken a lot of that to we discussed this a little bit earlier, the difference in foreign films versus American films.
Yeah.
And that, for lack of describing it differently, American filmmakers tend to feel that the American audience is dumb and they have to spell everything out for everybody and show you exactly why this has happened. Whereas in foreign films, and in particular this Korean film, it'll show you something knowing that you know what's happened to get there.
Right.
You can piece together the backstory on your own because it's just natural. It fits.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I felt that Min Suk Choi in the original did a much better job than Brolin. Brolin does a good job in this. I mean, I'm not trying to knock his performance, but I felt that the guy in the original one did a much better job of showing his descent into madness.
Yeah, he was and that's also the facial expressions and overacting, if you will.
Yeah,
it's definitely a technique in the Korean movies.
And that's something else we should touch on too. Is that Spike Lee really seemed to try and ground this movie in reality. Yeah. There's only 2 elements in it that are really outlandish, which we'll get to in a second. But the Korean film is like really bizarre.
So it's done almost comic booky, almost to let you know, almost how say a Sam Raimi or someone like that,
like Sin City or something like that,
does those comic book adaptations.
Right,
they're letting you know this is a comic book. It's fantastical and it's over the top. Whereas, like you said, Spike Lee totally grounds this.
He tries to make it.
Yeah, he tries.
And the two aspects of it that seem completely out of place for me are the villains in Spike Lee's. Samuel L. Jackson plays the guy who is the warden of the prison, basically, and then Charlton Copley, who was in District 9. He was just in Elysium this year. He plays the main villain, the guy who's responsible for putting him away,
in prison. Yeah,
and the two of them, and I wrote this in my review, that the two of them look like they shop at Zorg, like from Fifth Element. They look like the Zorg store, because
they were the only ones.
They're the only ones.
Else is just like
everyone dresses normal,
and then you have these two outlandish characters.
They look like they walked out of a sci-fi movie. And you're just like, what? Really so they're really bizarre, and they just didn't really feel. Now Samuel Jackson is more grounded because he's his usual filthy mouth self.
Which is funny because even in the Korean version, they're normally dressed like the main villain in a suit. He's
the most normal dude. Yeah, he's the most normal of anybody.
And the other guy's just a scummy type of
like gangster
guy that runs a prison. Which in Spike Lee's version, he tries to make that part of the not campy, but comic booky element. These characters are little.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson has a weird design here, and I liked it. I mean, it wasn't like I was like, but it just felt off with the rest of the movie. And like I said, Samuel Jackson is, we've seen him so much as Nick Fury in these PG-13 movies that like you almost forget that he's Mr. Motherfucker, and he gets in his share in this movie.
I also see senses of his Unbreakable character in here.
Little bit.
Little bit. He's pieced together a lot of different characters to create this guy. But he did a good job.
Yeah. And Copley is the main villain, and he is very out there in everything from his dialect to the way he carries himself. He's just very, very weird. And especially when you find out why he's so weird.
Yes. He has a reason for being.
Oh yeah, he does. And Brolin and then Troy, their characters go through and figure out that this guy, super spoilers coming now, to find out that the guy who imprisoned him was an old classmate in high school. They're both prep schools, I guess, but it seems like more of a high school. Evergreen, something like that.
Academy.
And in the original, they called themselves the Evergreen Oldboys, which is where the name comes from.
They don't even reference that.
They don't even reference Spike Lee.
Why? And if you haven't seen the original, if you think about it, you'll be like, I don't understand why this is called Oldboy at all.
You could have just called the movie Crazy Prison Guy, and it would have been
right.
Put him.
So that's where the name came from. Is that the prep academy, Evergreen Academy, where these two guys went to school. The guys in that school refer to themselves as the Old Boys.
Right. Then what happens is that they go and he pieces it together now, and this is where it starts to really diverge.
Yeah, this is where the two stories differ greatly in the mechanics that they use to get there, as well as the end result.
So in the original, he pieces together that he goes back to the old school, and like they have like these and Spike Lee did the same thing where he had like he was in his own flashbacks. He was like watching his flashbacks play out in front of him. Yeah. Basically, what he pieced together was that the classmate, the guy who imprisoned him, was basically fucking his sister, his own sister. In the original. And he was fucking his own sister. She ended up killing herself.
Because of the rumors that he started.
Yeah.
After seeing that, he spread rumors of her being a whore fucking her. I don't even think it references specifically that he said that she was in an incestual relationship.
Right.
But that she was a whore.
Right.
And that the rumors just spread rampant through the school. So and then she gets pregnant.
Well, does she? I mean, because that's what's
they call it a phantom. The villain
calls it a phantom pregnancy.
Refers to it as a phantom pregnancy. Although I think you get the
idea
that he's just fucking nuts and he's built up
a fault. That's what I took from it. I took from it, no, you knocked up your sister. And he blames Daisuo for it, but Daisuo really only tells one guy, his friend, and then he goes off to go into the army, and then the girl kills herself. Right. So it's like...
But see, in the original, they actually explain that because they used the line 2 or 3 times, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember what the line was, but it was, whether it be the smallest pebble or the largest rock, they both sink the same. Right. And that was the guy.
Oh, the sand.
That was the sand, smallest pebble or grain of sand they both sink the same. And that was the guy's reasoning for saying, "Look, you started this.
Right.
You started this rumor, even though you may have only told one or two people. You started it. You got the ball rolling.
Right.
And it's what caused her downfall. The woman I love. Yes, it was my sister. Yes, I'm fucking my sister. But we were in love with each other."
So she kills herself, so he blames him, puts him in prison, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Then there's another little twist. Just a little twist.
Just a little bitty twist.
The girl that he met, who helps him, the Elizabeth, the parallel to Elizabeth Olsen.
So in the original movie, this person's not a doctor.
No,
it's just someone he meets immediately when he gets out of prison. He goes to a restaurant and meets this woman, and they just hit it off. Mido, and they become friends.
Yeah,
and she wants to help him,
and then they do the dirty,
and then they end up getting it on and falling in love.
And then the villain says to him, when they confront each other, he says, "The most important question you didn't ever ask yourself is, why did I let you go?
And why did I let you out?"
And it turns out that Mido is Daisuo's daughter.
Whoa. So it's just all around.
So
there's a crotch party right up in here.
So he basically tricked his enemy into screwing his daughter, and
he didn't trick him.
That's true.
In the original, see, this is again, it's hard to keep going back and forth, but it's got to be done. From the beginning, when he put him, this is what he explains to him. When he was in that, in being held captive, every single day, they dose him with gas to knock him out.
Right.
And what is explained later is that throughout that entire 15 years, he was being hypnotized. He was being given triggers that would come into play later when he's let out.
Right. And
at the same time he was being hypnotized, Mido, his daughter / lover, she was, once her mom was killed and they didn't have the dad, she was adopted by this villain. And he was in turn hypnotizing her to have a similar set of triggers.
Right.
And the only thing he had to get them to do was basically fall in love.
Right.
Using these triggers.
Right.
And so that's what he does. You have a cell phone ring, triggers Daisu saying something.
Right.
And then him saying that triggers Mido to say something back.
Right.
And so it's all done by hypnotism, which Doug is not a fan of. Thinks that, and admittedly, I'm not either. It is a very poor device to use. It's lazy writing. But for me, it worked. This is one of the few times where it works, and I love it.
I think it's also, for me, is I really don't believe in hypnotism either. It's just like, for me, it's just like, what? So,
well, that's fine, but you know what? You don't necessarily believe in magic either, but you love Game of Thrones and.
But that's different.
Fantastical movies. This is a comic book movie. It's a fantastical movie.
I know, but
Doug.
But it's set in the real world. It's not like, it's not like Harry Potter or something like that, where it's like this whole conclave of,
If I could think long enough, I could figure a movie that you love that's set in the real world that has fantastical elements.
It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that didn't work for me about the original, and keep in mind, I likened the original movie to The Wolverine, which we discussed a couple episodes ago. That, for me, it was great all the way up until the end. And I'm not even talking about the twist with the daughter.
You're talking about the mechanism.
The mechanism, but also
the very end.
But also the reasoning why I get I get that the main villain Woo Jin is the villain. I get that he is crazy. I get that. But he wins in the end, and I don't have a problem with the villain winning in the end, because we can discuss a couple other movies that happens in a minute. But he wins in the end, but because it's his crazy logic that helps him win, and Daisuo really didn't do anything. I mean, he just told his friend, "Oh, that girl was fucking some guy. I gotta go." Right. And all of a sudden, he loses 15 years of his life. He's fucking his daughter. Cuts out his tongue at the end, because so that he doesn't tell Mido the truth. Yeah. And then I'm just like, it made like almost the whole movie like meaningless.
But see, for me, in thriller movies, and this is deemed a Korean horror movie. like this. Reason, it's not supposed to be a balanced reason.
Right.
You know, you got a crazy guy. It's not supposed to be a reason that makes sense. It's a reason.
Yeah.
He lost the love of his life. In his mind, he lost the love of his life because of this person.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And
my whole thing is like, I almost wish it had been more like, and spoilers for other movies now, like, say, like in The Prestige.
Oh, old movies.
Yeah, old movies. Yeah, not like a movie tomorrow. Like in The Prestige, when they turn it on its head, and you're like, oh shit, I've been rooting for the wrong guy the whole time. You know, it's like when you realize, oh, because it is kind of similar what happens. You know, well, I mean, nobody fucks anybody's daughter, but it's I mean, it's similar in like he takes the girl, raises her, and all this stuff. You know, and when you realize you were rooting for the wrong guy the whole time, that was satisfying. That's like, oh shit, that's crazy. Even The Dark Knight had, you know, the Joker won in The Dark Knight. No matter what Batman and Gordon say, the Joker won.
Right.
And they have to lie to make it look like he didn't win. That was satisfying to me. When we talked about The Counselor, we talked about No Country for Old Men. That's another one where the villain wins in the end. Very depressing ending, but still very satisfying to me. Because it made... And he's just as crazy. He's crazy, but it made sense. Shigor in No Country for Men, he's fucknuts crazy, but he has his own logic that it follows towards the end.
Yeah, he's more of just a sociopath. He's not. I mean, he's definitely...
He's pretty psycho.
Definitely crazy, but he's more of a sociopathic...
Right.
Just psycho. This I don't know. For me, I think you're thinking about this way too logically. Like, you're trying to throw way too much logic into a character who's obviously all, you know, when he was there when Mito, he was there when his sister killed herself.
Right.
I mean, at that moment, he was off the rails. He lost it. Now, more my question is, how did this psycho get all this money? How did he build an empire?
Yeah. In Spike Lee's version, it's more clear because his family was already super wealthy.
That's correct.
Let's
go back.
So now we'll go back. So that's the original version.
Yeah, the mechanism in the original version was hypnosis.
And like I said, the way I compared it to Wolverine is that great movie, last 15 minutes, I was just like, what the fuck? Okay. So in the new version, Spike Lee's version, turns out that, you know, Elizabeth Olsen is his daughter.
Same deal.
Boobies. And
high five, Josh Brolin.
Yeah, high five, Josh Brolin. She's your daughter, but whatever. And you know, this is I hadn't seen any other things that she'd been in recently. I liked her a lot in this movie.
Yeah, she did. I'm
really looking forward now.
I mean, the cast did a great job in this movie.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her as Scarlet Witch because she's gonna be Scarlet Witch in the new Avengers movie, which comes out in 2 years, year and a half. So she's his daughter. He finds that out later. But what happened was they made it clear that Joe started the rumor. And Spike Lee does it a little ham-fistedly, but he does show that, yes, indeed, he started the rumor. He told everybody.
In Spike Lee's version, part of the flashback is going back to actually seeing that piece of it.
Yeah, seeing the girl get the sister get tortured by these.
So in the original, it just flashes back to the scene where he sees them fucking.
Right.
Whereas in Spike Lee's version, they have a
shows the aftermath.
Flashback scene.
But however, the person she's screwing is not the brother. It turns out to be her father.
Yeah.
But Joe didn't know that. He didn't know that at the time.
He was just some old dude.
He was just some old dude.
Yeah.
And so he was basically just spreading the rumor that she was a whore, basically, and a slut. Then it takes another weird turn where you find out that the father was fucking the sister and the brother.
And they moved away.
And then the father went crazy and
killed the family.
Killed the family, tried to kill the son.
Yeah. Basically tried to kill the whole family. Son survives, killed himself. So the only survivor in the family is the son.
Right.
Who turns out to be...
Charlton Copley.
Yeah.
To me, that was... as crazy as both these movies are, that to me was a little bit more plausible than what happened in the original. Because like I said, he just told the one guy and all of a sudden he's like, ah! You know, this, he actually actively, you're like, he's a bad guy. He's like, he's not a very nice guy.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying he deserved what he got, but he
right.
wasn't a good guy.
Well, yeah, and neither of these movies is the character of Daesu or Doucette. They're not good guys.
Right.
They're at best they're douchebags.
And I felt that Spike Lee's movie showed that.
It showcases Doucette as an asshole.
Yeah.
A lot better. They definitely show a lot more up front before he's captured.
Yeah.
Right.
What happened was kind of similar. The guy, the brother, Sharlto Copley, the villain, he took the girl in after the murder. And what he basically created this fake America's Most Wanted type show.
This is where it's completely different.
Completely different. He created this fake America's Most Wanted TV show that
the set in his home. He has the set of the show, this quote unquote TV show, in his basement,
and it only beamed episodes to Joe's prison.
Yeah,
and he showed the daughter growing up basically, and they would always revisit the case and talk about it. You know, the murder of the wife.
And when we say the daughter, he's not using Elizabeth Olsen.
No, he's not.
He's got some actress in there,
right?
So Doucette thinks his daughter is someone who she's not.
So so the other thing is you find out that he destroyed all of Elizabeth Olsen's records, and then basically covered the tracks and whatever. There's no hypnotism or anything like that in this.
It's just straight trickery. It's outright deception.
But it's still, at least the hypnotism somewhat explains why they would get together.
That's not big.
Whereas this, there's no real reason why they would get together.
It's way too coincidental, because and they don't even. It would have almost worked better for me had they not tried to explain it so much. But they tried to explain it, and Copley's explanation makes no sense. Where he's just like, "It was more difficult with your daughter because I had to get her in the right family that was going to treat her like shit." So that she would raise to want to help people and help someone exactly like you. Yeah. It's like, you lost me. I'm more for the hypnotism over 15 years. I can buy that.
Yeah. I think the other thing for me is like, it's the hypnotism part where it's just like, you know, you're getting sleepy, that type of stuff. Where it's like, if they did something else, like, even if they did like subliminal messages, like in the video that he's watching, like brainwashing, I would have bought that even more than just like some woman going, guess what's going to happen later? I would have bought that more than straight up hypnotism, because brainwashing does happen, like for reals.
Yeah, I mean, I consider that's just a stretch. Hypnotism is a form of brainwashing. You know,
I guess
people are more subjective
yeah.
to subliminal thoughts, whether they're, you know, however they're put in.
Luckily, they were both susceptible to it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true.
That was lucky.
That was a line that they put. That, yeah, luckily both he and his daughter were very susceptible.
Stupid.
But over 15 years, you can condition someone. You break them down enough, you can condition someone to do anything. Call it hypnotism, call it brainwashing, whatever you want.
Bark like a dog.
Hell. I'm not there yet.
See, I did it.
But anyway.
So then he reveals that, you know, Elizabeth Olsen's his hot daughter. And then they high five. So then of course, he has a mental breakdown.
Yeah, begs him not to let
begs
her
him not
know.
to tell her. Begs him not to tell her. And then Copley and Woo-jin both are true to their word. They kill themselves. And then
great scene in the original, though.
Yeah,
a great scene in the original where he cuts out his tongue.
Ugh,
it's great because, you know,
that's gross.
That being said, was he spread rumors,
right?
Which caused
right. That was his atonement.
That was his atonement. Was he said, look, just don't tell her I'll do anything, and then he cuts out his own tongue. And then,
without even being asked.
He wasn't asked. It was just improv. I might have asked. I mean, is this what you want me to do?
I mean, I cut off a finger. So I can do that.
So yeah, he cuts out his own tongue in the original. In this one, he basically just grovels a little bit.
Yeah, and then what happens is, and then the codas at the end of both movies are extremely different.
Way different. Yeah.
Whereas in the original, he goes to. He finds the hypnotist.
Yeah, goes back to the hypnotist,
and they don't say how much later this is.
Yeah, you assume it's fairly right after everything's happened.
He finds the hypnotist, and he tells her to make him forget that he knows Mito is his daughter.
Yeah,
and then at the end,
she explains to him also because this has to do with the end. She explains to him this could work or it could backfire, and you could never forget.
Right.
There's a chance.
Right. And it's left very ambiguous at the end as to whether it worked or not.
Yeah, he's got this weird grimace / smile on his face that you're not. It's up to. It is. It's up.
Oh yeah,
it's up to the audience to determine: did he forget or does he remember forever?
Right.
So that's the end of the original, which I love.
And of course, my problem with that is the hypnotism. So it's like I said to you earlier. The hypnotism as a device. It's a lot like amnesia. Now, in something like Jason Bourne, where it starts out where he's just like, I don't know who I am, that's one thing. But in something like, say, 24, Season 1, where the wife magically has amnesia, so you can get rid of her for a couple episodes, it's shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're not going to buy into the hypnotism thing, sure, you're not. Yeah. You're going to have big problems with the original movie.
And then the end of the new one, he leaves. He writes her a letter and says, and he gives her like all this money.
Part of
the prize,
winning the game,
we'll say,
was all these diamonds. He got like billions of dollars worth of diamonds.
He gives the majority of them to Elizabeth Olsen, sends her a letter and says, I have to go away, I can't see you anymore. And then he brings a bag of the diamonds himself and he gives them to Samuel L. Jackson to put him back in prison.
And then it ends with him in the room.
Prison. With the crazy smile.
Sort of the crazy smile. Again, a toned-down version of a crazy smile. That didn't work for me.
See, the reason why I like that is because it wasn't as outlandish as the Korean version, where he just...
Again, because you don't like the hypnosis.
Well, no, it's not just that. It wasn't as outlandish as he's freaking out. Oh, cut my tongue! It's like, wow, that escalated quickly.
The very end.
No.
Talking about.
No, yeah. Like, that escalated quickly. This seemed, because he lived there for 20 years, and that's what he'd become accustomed to. That for me really demonstrated his craziness more than anything else throughout the movie did. Because he's like, this is where I belong now.
Right.
And so that's why it worked for me. That he's like, I'm just going to take myself out of the game. That's it. I'll never see her again. No problems.
Right. I would just kill myself, though. That's easy peasy.
That's true. Yeah, you could have done that,
I would
too.
never... See, I'm not going to... If I have a problem with what I've done, and obviously he did and should have, I wouldn't want to live another 40 years in a room by myself just thinking about that. I'm just going to fucking kill myself and be done with it.
The question really is, though, because he gave Samuel L. Jackson all those diamonds, does he at least get cable now?
One would hope.
I would hope so.
Maybe. Hopefully more than dumplings. Maybe a fillet every now
and then.
Yeah, I know,
yeah. I mean, come on, man. It's like, I give you all these diamonds.
Don't torture yourself crazy. Go crazy about it. But I'll tell you what I did like in the new one, and just because it's fun and always, they do it in most remakes, but in this one it was just fun and quirky. The homages Lee uses to the original. They are fun. They are fun in this one.
Yeah, there are several homages
to
the original.
There's the wings in the original.
Right.
In the original, at the very beginning, it's his daughter's birthday. It's her third birthday, and she's going to give his daughter a pair of angel wings.
One
And they show up in the new one. They're not the gift, but the lady selling him the gift is wearing them.
Right.
And then in the original, when he first gets out, one of his big things is, I want to eat something alive.
Right.
So he eats this live squid, which is pretty
the live octopus. Yeah, that's.
And they show that one. They show a live squid or octopus, whatever it is, in a tank in this one.
The tongue.
The tongue. They have. It was
Chucky's
tongue in this original. You know what? One thing we haven't touched on before we I know we probably need to wrap this up. The one thing we haven't touched on here is the biggest problem I had with the new one, which is that we did touch on it earlier, in that it tries to be more grounded.
Right.
But then there are some scenes that they have to add into the movie because they're iconic, such as the hallway scene with the hammer.
Yeah.
And in the new one, because it's such a grounded movie, stuff like this just didn't work out. It just didn't fit for me. It was cool looking stylistically, but it's like it felt like it needed to be in a different movie.
Mm.
And I think we were reading up on this. You showed me an article where maybe explains that a little bit, if you want to go into that. But for me, there was that scene particularly, and a couple other smaller scenes that just didn't fit in this movie.
Right.
But they fit the Oldboy story as a whole.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, yeah. That fight is a little,
Comic booky.
Yeah, it's a very comic booky fight, and it's a cool fight. I mean, I liked it a lot in the original, and I thought they did a good job in this one. But like you said, it did feel a little out of place.
Yeah, I mean,
because
in a grounded movie like this, guess what? He's going to get his ass kicked by three guys.
It's not just that. It's because when Josh Brolin is in prison, you see him doing the training, but it's not to the degree that they did it in the original.
Absolutely.
Because even as soon as he gets out of prison, like he has an internal monologue throughout the original, and I almost feel like that should have been in this one as well, the new one.
Yeah, it works
because it really informs what's going on. Because he's like, when he gets out of prison, he runs into some trouble, and he goes, Can imaginary fighting turn into payoff into real fighting? And then he kicks these guys' asses. Is like, apparently so. Yeah. So and there is a scene like that in the new one. In the new one, but that was kind of hokey. That whole thing was kind of hokey.
And you know what? Here's the other thing to me that some very small gripe, but in the original one, it's these gang. It's like a Korean gang of thugs.
Right.
And this one, it's a high school football team.
Yeah.
And he just beats the shit out of this high school football team. Like breaks their bones and shit.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like a gang of thugs. It's a high school football team. And I just felt bad. I was like, oh.
Well, he did go to the rival school.
That's true. He was an old boy, and these were the young guys.
Yeah, I mean, so now that we've basically ruined both movies for you.
So the original.
The original, I gave it an equivalent grade that I gave the Wolverine. I gave it a B-, just because for me the ending just didn't work for me. It just kind of derailed the whole thing, which is the same as the Wolverine. I mean, that stupid samurai costume, it fucking.
And the new one.
And the new one I gave a C, just because it felt like it was really just a shadow.
Not quite. It was, yeah.
It was.
See, and for me, the original, it's more. For me, it's held more in cult status.
Right.
For you kind of saw them back to back, and they were just fresh movies.
Right.
The original for me, I did not see it when it came out in 2003. I saw it years later, but it still holds up for me. It's one of my favorite foreign films. It's just got this cult status, that one of those movies that just hits you.
And we also disagreed because he recently did his first English movie. Our friend Hillary and I were laughing throughout the whole movie at how bad it was, and you walked out and you're like, I liked it.
It wasn't bad.
I liked it.
And there's nothing wrong with this, but you guys, you don't care for Park's directing style.
It's not. Yeah, but it's funny though because
Stoker was an American film, but it was directed by Park.
Chan-wook Park.
His American directorial debut. But it was
very much his movie.
Very much his movie. It was still a Korean style movie.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I love that style. You don't.
And what's funny about it though is like you watch that, and then since I saw Oldboy after that, I was like, oh yeah, the incest makes sense.
Right?
I think you really need to seek some help, my friend, because he has a fixation.
And you see the style too, right?
Yeah.
And it should be pointed out, by the way, I'm not sure about the manga.
Right.
Well, actually, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the manga. I'm sure that's just Oldboy. But this is part of a Vengeance trilogy that he created in Korea, where you have Oldboy, you have Lady Vengeance, and you have Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
Right.
So it's a trilogy called the Vengeance trilogy. They're not related. They're completely separate stories, but they're all about revenge and vengeance. Right. I recommend them all. They're all great.
Yeah, I'll watch them. I mean, I'll watch the other two. I think they're on Netflix.
They are.
But so that's that. So if you're gonna watch Oldboy, go rent the original on DVD.
The only saving grace with the new one, which again is not terrible, you don't have to sit through subtitles.
Yeah, you don't have to read subtitles, and Elizabeth Olsen.
And Elizabeth Olsen's movies.
So that's Oldboy. So let's lighten things up a little bit.
Yeah.
You were very excited about a 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. They just showed, just this past weekend, showed The Day of the Doctor.
Indeed.
No, that was 2 weekends ago.
It was
2 weekends ago. And they showed Day of the Doctor. I just watched it this past weekend. That's what it was. But they had Day of the Doctor, which was basically like the 50th anniversary episode.
Yeah.
I've never been a big Doctor Who fan. I just never got into it.
Have you ever seen any of it?
I've seen episodes before, and being immersed in like nerd culture as I am, Like I read,
always rumbling around.
right? I read, like I'm a regular reader of io9.com, which is a great science fiction website, and they're always talking about Doctor Who. So like I know who Matt Smith is. I know David Tennant. Sure. I know Christopher Eccleston was the Doctor before, and I watched Day of the Doctor, like I said, just the other day, and it was good. I liked it. Good. It made it was a little confusing in the beginning, but I think it was supposed to be. The only question I was left with is who is John Hurt in the line of Doctors? Right.
Okay, so I can.
But we should probably
when we get into it.
Yeah, let's. So basically, to sum up the story real quick, because it's not. It was basically like an hour and a half. It was, but their episodes are usually what, an hour?
Yes.
The normal episode. Yes. So it's a little bit of a episode and a half. They did put it out in movie theaters as a Fathom Events type thing.
I saw it in the theater. I saw it the day it came out, obviously, and then I went back on Monday and saw it in the theaters. Interesting, if you question Doctor Who's fan base or how big it actually is here. Granted, it was a Monday. It only that Monday in ticket sales. It only trailed Hunger Games.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was, it wasn't in every theater. And granted, tickets were a little more pricey.
They're $15, which is usually like the price for.
But still, sales for that Monday. I don't remember the exact amount anymore, but they were second only to Hunger Games,
which is impressive. The story basically is that, and the thing with Doctor Who is there's a lot of time travel stuff because he is a Time Lord.
Yeah, it's a race of people on his planet. They're called Time Lords.
Right, and there's a lot of time travel stuff, so it does get confusing at times. But basically, it's the story of 3 different doctors who are essentially the same person.
Oh, you're specifically talking about Day of the Doctor, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. It's about 3 different doctors who are essentially the same person, just different incarnations of that person.
Yeah, well, to say they're the same person, yes and no, right? They're separate being, but they're incarnations of this doctor.
Right. So you've got Matt Smith, who is the current Doctor. He's the 12th, correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right. He's the 12th Doctor. You also had David Tennant.
No, he's the 11th Doctor.
Is he 11th?
See, this is where it becomes tricky with that War Doctor, where John Hurt comes into play. He's technically the 11th Doctor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, Matt Smith, who's the current Doctor. You have David Tennant, who was the Doctor before him. Yes. And he was David Tennant was most famous for Doctor Who, but he
was a Doctor for a long time.
He was also in Harry Potter 4 as Barty Crouch Jr. and he was good in that role. But that's where I knew him from before Doctor Who.
Yeah, he was 5-6 seasons. He was.
Doctor Who. I would say he's probably the most popular one of the current
canon of Doctor Who, the Stephen Moffat canon of Doctor Who for sure.
Right. And we'll get to it in a minute. Yeah. And then you had John Hurt played a guy called the War Doctor, who basically you could almost say he's like the origin Doctor, isn't he? Kind of.
No, he is the of maybe the Doctor Who story as far as his planet's concerned. Yes, but no, he's by no means the original Doctor.
Right.
So what you might not have seen, Doug, is that they actually had a little 6-minute companion piece that it preceded the Day of the Doctor called the Night of the Doctor.
Okay.
Where it shows John Hurt's incarnation come into being.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I didn't see that.
He comes right after the 8th Doctor. He comes right after, what's his name? Paul Began, the 8th Doctor. So he comes right before Chris Eccleston in the series of Doctors. Okay. And they show that. They have a little scene where the Doctor is trying to save someone, and they crash land on a planet of witch-type people, old witches.
Right. And
they allow the Doctor to become any incarnation he wishes by drinking this elixir. Because he's going to die. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, look, who do you need to be now? And he says, I don't need to be the Doctor, I need to be the War Doctor because I've got something I've got to do. Which then becomes John Hurt, and the Day of the Doctor begins, which is his primary objective is there's a giant war going on between the Daleks, very, very famous villains in Doctor Who, and the Time Lords. and they're basically destroying the universe.
Right.
So John Hurt makes the impossible decision. I'm going to destroy my planet to save the universe.
Right.
With all the Daleks and the Time Lords on it, I'm going to destroy my own people to save the universe.
Now, my question is, the Time Lords, are they all like the Doctor, or they are more like humans where they have finite lives?
They're not humans.
Well, what I mean is
they're all Time Lords. They all have,
so they all regenerate like the Doctor. Okay. I didn't know if that was just a special thing just for him.
No, I mean obviously if you blow your body up, you got nothing to reincarnate. But no, that's they're all Time Lords. They all have the ability to control time and space.
Right.
And but they're, as with any story about time travel and people who control that, their mantra is, we are not to interfere.
Right.
Right. And the Doctor, they're not all the Doctor, right? They're just Time Lords.
Right.
Well, the Doctor is different. He's kind of he's a rebel, if you will, of the Time Lord people,
mm-hmm.
and he sets out on his own. He steals a time travel device. It's called a Tardis.
Right.
Stands for time and relative dimension in space. Tardis.
Right.
And that allows him to travel through space and time.
Right. And
he does this traveling to explore, and he also helps people.
Right.
The show started in 1963, so it's been running for a very long time. Like I said, it's the 50th.
There was a big gap, though, wasn't there?
Yeah. So it ran from 63 to 89, pretty much consecutively.
Right.
And then I think there was a movie in there somewhere in the mid 90s, and then Moffat picked it back up in 2003.
Right. Okay. And that was with Chris Eccleston.
And that's with Chris Eccleston, and that's what. When people say Doctor Who these days, that's really what they're referring to.
Right.
Most likely, is the Moffat canon of Doctor Who that started in 2003.
Now is he the one who created Gallifrey and all that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That was all from before.
Yeah. No. The whole idea of Gallifrey being the planet the Doctor's from and him destroying his planet. No, that's been around.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's.
It just it.
You're right.
It sounds like a reboot type thing.
Yeah.
They would put in there.
And the reboot in the not to get spoilers away. This is an episode for spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, the reboot, if you will, in this
happens in this
is that he doesn't destroy his planet. They actually save it and kind of hide it away.
Yeah, like in suspended animation.
And it looks like what they're going to do now is the new season, which will start the Christmas episode, where Peter Capaldi will come in as the 12th Doctor, will be in search of his planet. Mm-hmm. It sounds like what they're going to do. For me, I have a little problem with that because, and granted, they kind of played off as to the Doctors don't know. Up until Matt Smith, the Doctors didn't know that Gallifrey wasn't destroyed because the way time travel works. Mm-hmm. But it kind of... For me, it kind of destroys who the Doctor is a little bit. Mm-hmm. He is who he is because he destroyed his planet.
Right.
And that hurt him so deeply. Now he's always in search
trying to help. Right.
So for me, it kind of takes away a little of the mythos of...
Weakens the character
the Doctor a little bit. But I still thought The Day of the Doctor was a fantastic episode, especially trying to tie 50 years of...
Yeah, I liked how they did that at the end, and they brought in. I mean, it was all archival footage for the most part, and I really loved how
when they put all the Doctors in there. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And I really loved how they had Tom Baker show up because he is the iconic Doctor.
So that's why I was saying David Tennant is probably the most
of the current ones, right?
Yeah, Tom Baker, who was the fourth Doctor.
Yeah.
He's the most iconic Doctor.
The one with the scarf and the hat.
He's played the Doctor the longest.
Right.
Right. David Tennant's was right at his heels if they didn't play in the same amount. But yeah, he was the most iconic Doctor, and yeah, he has a cameo here.
Yeah.
Which is kind of in dispute in here as to whether he was playing a Doctor or just kind of winking at the audience that he was a Doctor. Because to me, if he was playing a Doctor, if he was playing an incarnation of the Doctor, it didn't make sense because everyone was supposed to have forgotten about Gallifrey not being destroyed up until Matt Smith. So how the hell would he have known?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a fun little wink to the audience, and Moffat did a fantastic job of putting all the Doctor. Granted, it's just like you said.
Yeah, archival footage.
Archival footage of very half-second scenes.
Are they all still alive? I mean, or did some of them have passed away?
No, Tom Hartnell, the original Doctor, he died.
Right.
Most of them are still around.
Right.
Eccleston, he was the Ninth Doctor, and he gets a bad rap.
William Hartnell.
Yeah,
okay. I'm just looking at it right now.
He gets a bad rap these days because he quit
Yeah.
Doctor Who. He said, "I'm not going to go back." I guess he thought they'd be better in movies.
So he's the David Caruso of
he
Doctor
is.
Who.
He is. Fans kind of a little mad at him because he basically, I'm not saying he was mean about it, but he basically said, "Fuck you, Doctor Who. I'm going my own way."
Yeah. And Doctor Who kind of made him.
Right.
And then he he goes to do.
I mean, he was in some small movies, right? Like he was in Gone in 60 Seconds. I remember him having a villain part in, and but yeah, he wasn't much of anything. And now
pretty much I know him as Doctor Who and Destro, basically.
Yeah, Destro, and who was the other? I don't know. Yeah, for me, it seems like he would have gotten more mileage from his career had he stuck on, and he probably after seeing what Tennant did, he probably realizes that. But yeah. Hey, look.
It totally is an NYPD
movie. Their careers, they see him differently at the time, and again, he was the first incarnation of the new canon of Doctors. Who he didn't know it was going to blow up like it did.
Yeah,
that's not his fault, but a lot of fans are kind of upset with him. But I mean, David Tennant, the Doctor made him.
Oh yeah.
To most people, he is the Doctor.
He is Doctor Who.
There was a lot of outcry when his doctor passed.
Yeah,
he didn't quit. They wrote to him. I don't know.
Well, I thought he left. I thought he was just it's kind of time.
I'm not sure if they had set it up that way or if he had set its time. But when Matt Smith came on, he was a great quirky Doctor.
Right.
Not quite as he was a lot more quirkier than David Tennant's Doctor.
Yeah.
And it fits the genealogy of Doctor Who. Having that guy in there. And the funny thing is now the new Doctor coming, Peter Capaldi. He's an older guy.
Right.
He's a very old, seasoned
English
actor.
Which goes back to the original Doctors because they were all older guys.
Yeah. And
I guess until Tom Baker came along, right? Because Tom Baker was much younger than the first three.
Up until then, they were all old guys.
Right.
And it's funny because you can go on YouTube and see like videos of when they announce the new Doctors. They always make a big to do of it. And they keep it secret as long as possible, and then they'll actually have it on TV where they announce it.
Right.
And when they announce Peter Capaldi, there's a few YouTube videos, but there's this one of this young girl who just starts crying. She's like, "Who is this old guy? Who is this old? No, I'm not going to watch Doctor Who anymore." And it's just like it's. People that want their David Tennants, and it's like you're not a fan of the real Doctor Who, I guess. But I mean, Doctor Who is just it's certainly now big here, but it's always been a mainstay in
England.
In England,
yeah.
That's their. I don't even know what to compare it to over here. I mean, what's been around even anywhere near that long?
Star Trek,
maybe. I guess
but
maybe
Star Trek isn't. Star Trek's more cult here.
And it's gone through so many incarnations. So.
60 minutes?
Yeah. 60 minutes. I thought you were going to say 60 shows. It's 60. So maybe Star Trek is a good thing to describe it over here.
Well, I mean, I remember when because like I said, being enmeshed in nerd culture and stuff like that, like I know who some of the players are, and I've seen a few episodes. Like I know Billie Piper, so when she showed up in this episode, I was like, "Hey, I know her. She was his companion."
Right.
She was Rose.
If you're not familiar with Doctor Who, he always has companions,
human companions,
for whether
not only humans,
but whether it lasts a season or a time period of the Doctor, he always has human or some other companions with him,
right?
That. They'll run their time and they'll either be killed or
usually hot chicks.
A lot of hot chicks. I know you're talking about specifically the Impossible Girl Clara.
The current companion Clara is played by Jenna Louise Coleman. Ooh. She is gorgeous, but she even said when she got cast that I think her grandmother was so excited because she was a big Doctor Who fan in England. She's just like, "Oh my god!" So that goes to show you it's really big over there.
I mean, and when they cast these people, it's really weird. Like they'll go into casting these people, and I guess it's like this with a lot of movies too that they're trying to keep under wraps, but they don't even know that they're going in for a casting call for Doctor Who.
Oh, really?
They just they're going to their agent, sign them up for a casting call for it'll be something else, and then it turns out to be Doctor Who.
And then when they get there, they figure it's Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're doing the same thing kind of for Star Wars.
Yeah, I said, they do that with a lot of things, but I mean it's a big deal over there.
Yeah.
And I'll have to say Stephen Moffat, he's done it right. I mean, he's really created something great. And they've had spin-offs from Doctor Who.
Yeah, Torchwood's the big one.
Captain Jack Harkness, played by, he's in the Arrow now.
Was.
Oh, you're not caught up on Arrow.
Oh, damn it! Oh! Oh, well, okay, I can see how that could happen. Yeah. That's John Bowerman. John
Bowerman. Yeah.
Hold on a second. IMDb.
English gay gentleman.
He's not English.
Yes.
I don't think he is. I think he's American. Yeah, John Barrowman.
Barrowman. That's it.
Barrowman.
Is he not English? Does it say?
No. Oh, Scottish.
Okay. Scottish. I knew he wasn't American. If it's not Scottish, it's crap.
Yeah, but John Barrowman.
Yeah, so he was back with Chris Eccleston and David Tennant. He was a companion of the Doctor who he's kind of immortal.
Yeah.
He had this curse put on him kind of thing. He's immortal and can't die. And they did a spin-off show where he runs this X-Files-y type of thing on Earth called Torchwood, which is an anagram for Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Torchwood is an anagram for Doctor Who.
I watched the first 2 seasons of Torchwood. There's like the 2 mini-series, I guess, that I have to watch still.
Yeah, it's a good show.
But Torchwood's good. Torchwood's good. I really liked... Torchwood was also not afraid... And I guess this goes towards UK shows in general as opposed to American shows. Was not afraid to pull any punches.
No.
They would kill off
They'll kill off their main characters, just Doctor Who does. I mean, that's what Doctor Who does, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, that came about because, as you mentioned, the original Doctors were old guys.
Right.
And the original Doctor, William Hartnell, he basically started getting Alzheimer's on the show. And they had to, and the show was doing so well that first season into the second season that by the third season, they had to figure a way to write him out.
Right.
And they said, hey, well, this is a sci-fi show. This is an alien. This is how we'll do it.
Right.
And that's how they wrote him out.
And now they're going to run into some problems coming up because...
Yeah, well, again, this is where they'll do the same thing. As long as people are still watching, they'll be like, hey, this is a sci-fi show. We can do whatever we want. But that's where that War Doctor comes in. The Doctor can only have 13 incarnations.
Right.
And then
now they're on number 12.
The Doctor's done.
Now they're on number 12.
So Peter Capaldi will be number 12. Technically, it would be number 13, though, because of the War Doctor.
Right.
John Hurt, who they put in there. And Stephen Moffat has already come out and said he absolutely counts as an incarnation. He's not... The number doesn't change for the other Doctors because he's not the Doctor. He was the War Doctor. So, and they don't consider themselves numbered anyway.
Right.
So the number of how we look at the Doctors doesn't change. It's still the 12th Doctor, but it is the 13th incarnation.
Right.
Which means they're at the end of this Peter Capaldi's run. If they want to keep going, they're going to have to do some of their writing magic to change the the genealogy of Doctor Who, if you will.
Yeah. So, and he actually made a semi-appearance in Day of the Doctor.
Yeah, it's great. I showed his eyes. He goes, and me, the third.
Yeah,
it was great. That's what they did at the end. The climactic scene kind of has all the Doctors and all their Tardises going around this planet. No need to get into it. But,
right.
And then at the very end, they show them all kind of a panned up shot, so that they show all the.
He wasn't in there though. Was he? I don't think he was in that shot.
No, because he didn't.
Because he's not technically executive.
Yeah. But he'll this Christmas they always do a Christmas episode that leads into later on the summer Doctor Who summer. They always do a Christmas episode first, and in this Christmas episode, Matt Smith's Doctor will die. And become Peter Capaldi's Doctor.
That's and now is Jenna Louise Coleman? Is she going to stick with him for as far as we know for now?
Yeah. Like I said, the
companions can stick with different Doctors.
Don't necessarily change. And the companions a lot of times will die before
Right.
a new incarnation of the Doctor.
Or they'll just leave, because he's had several who have just left, right?
Yeah, that decided they're, I want to go back home.
Like, I remember, I think I did watch one of the Christmas episodes. I think Kylie Minogue was on it.
Oh yeah,
she was she was.
That might have been with Chris Eccleston. That might have been the.
No, it was definitely David Tennant.
Was it
was
Tennant?
definitely David Tennant.
Okay. Yeah, she played an alien of sorts, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or like it was. Weren't they on a ship or something like that?
Yeah. It was they were
to me,
a cruise. Yeah.
To me, it seems similar to that episode of X-Files.
You're right. It was David Tennant. That's when it was the first David Tennant. It was when he was introduced.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's when he says Alan Z, which was one of his fans' favorite lines. Let's go, Alan Z. He liked to have the French saying.
Right. Yeah, because it reminded me of that X-Files episode when they were like going back and forth in time on that cruise ship.
Oh yeah, the black and white thing.
Yeah, I think it was going back to Nazi Germany or something. Yeah. It was weird. Yeah, but it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah. So, in any case, So it is the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. If you're not a fan of it, I would say it's cheesy sci-fi.
Yeah.
Even the new stuff. It's
the aliens.
It's all an homage to the original, and they're all. It's not like they've updated the Daleks to look differently.
Yeah.
They're cheesy. The Cybermen, the Daleks.
The aliens in this one were kind of cheesy.
Saying, you have the Weeping Angels, everything. It's all cheesy sci-fi, but it's fun, and it's actually done really well. There are some poignant moments where you get sad, you laugh a lot. I would recommend it as a show to get into. It's all on except for this last season. Everything's on Netflix in Stephen Moffat's Doctor. I'm not sure about everything else, but I would recommend starting there. Start with Eccleston.
Yeah.
The Ninth Doctor there, the Moffat 2003 version, and go from there. It's a great show.
And then the Christmas episode coming up at the end of the year seems like it'd be a good jumping on point for people if they want to.
Yeah. If you want to get involved with the new Doctor, Peter Capaldi, who. For me, I think he's going to be a great Doctor. I'm really looking forward to an older Doctor.
Yeah.
I really liked Tennant and Smith. Eccleston was fine, but obviously you don't grow to appreciate him because he's after one season he's done. But it's a great show, and I recommend it as a watch. You should keep it up, Doug. If you like this one, I mean,
I got a lot of crap on my DVR.
I do nothing but watch TV, folks, so I've got plenty of time.
Apparently, I have to catch up on Arrow. So,
sorry for that spoiler.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, you bastard. That'll do it for episode 13 of the Hodgepodge podcast. Next episode, we will be discussing a movie that we've been looking forward to for several months. We recently saw Homefront, which I would say is the shittier version of this movie we're going to see. Skip that. We're going to see
compare?
Well, it's similar because it's blue collar, justice. That kind
Shame on you, sir.
I said it's the shitty version.
It's Jason Statham.
We're going to
see with a jean jacket.
We're going to see Out of the Furnace.
Oh God!
With starring Christian Bale, Woody Harrelson, a whole all-star cast.
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker's in it.
This weekend can't get here soon enough.
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing that. We'll be talking about that, and we'll be talking about other things, I'm sure, as well. We haven't pieced it together yet.
We'll figure it out.
Maybe we'll talk about Homefront. Compare and contrast.
That's just awful. That's just special torture.
But, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.